Cecile Schoon. I'm the president of the Bay County League of Women Voters. On behalf of our team of League of Women Voters, and we do have some gentlemen who are in our League of Women Voters, we want to say thank you for this wonderful turnout and your interest in your local politics and how your city runs. That's just fabulous to see this kind of turnout. So thank you for that. I want to tell you just a little bit about the League of Women Voters. The group of women, it started after women got the right to vote. They were fighting, the suffragettes, of course, were fighting for the right to vote, and they got it after a long, long struggle. But guess what? Nobody had any practice. They didn't really know how to vote or what the issues were, and then they had to get registered. So then people got together and said, hey, we got to work on this. And the League of Women Voters was started. So the main things that the League still does to this day, we honor our suffragette history. What we do, we love to register people to vote, and we always have our voter registration forms with us wherever we go. And we can do that for you very quickly, and we'll drop it right in the box on our way back into town. So it'll be back where it needs to be today. So most of you probably are voters, but just let people know that's what the League still does. We also hold forums. We have political forums like this for candidates because we believe that everyone should have an opportunity to serve. And it shouldn't be just the people who have the money to buy ads or go on TV or radio ads are the only ones who have the opportunity to serve. So when we offer these forums, which of course it's completely free to you, and we're all volunteers, all League members are volunteers, and we do our research and we see what's going on in your town or your area. And this is our third municipal forum. We did one April 6th that was in Lynn Haven, which was also well attended. I'm sorry, it was in the end of March. And then April 6th we did Panama City, one of our wards. And then this is our last one today. So we really, really love to provide the service, and we want everyone to feel like they can, first of all, be a candidate, and that everybody can hear from their candidates and be able to get some answers in an open forum. This is the best of America. This is, the thing that we offer. This is something that many countries, admire us for, and we carry on that tradition. The other thing that the League does is not only do we offer educational opportunities for candidates, we also educate people on issues that are going on, like the amendments and things like that. We have forums for the amendments. So keep your ears open to things like that come in the future. When there's amendments being posted, we may have positions on them. And then the League also does advocacy, and we have conventions every 2 years, and after great discussion, it comes from the floor, we vote. The top doesn't tell the League members what to do. The League members are all individuals, and we get together and we caucus and we say, we want to work on education in the public schools, and then everyone votes and you have to vote it in. Or we want to work on increasing solar, or we want to work on increasing healthcare. And those are actually things that we are working on. So we also have that arm that you'll hear about things that we advocate for. The last thing I'd like to tell you about is something that's really super important, and it's not directly connected to the League. It's called the Constitution Revision Commission. You may have heard some talks about it, and we have paperwork on the table. It's there, it's free. Please look at it. It's been compiled. And this is something that happens every 20 years in the state of Florida. The state of Florida is unique in this, where we actually have in our Constitution a method for our citizens to get together and change the Constitution. Now, it's difficult to do that. It's difficult to do that because you got to get a lot of signatures, and then to get a petition on the ballot, and then you have to get people to agree. But the thing that makes Florida unique is that we actually have a Constitution Revision Commission that is going to hold hearings all around the state. There's going to be at least, I think, 20 hearings around the state. And they just got started. And what they're going to do is hear from citizens about things that you would like or don't like to have be amended in our Constitution. So the next one is not far from you, and I wanted to tell you about it. It's going to be in Tallahassee on April the 12th at 5 p.m. in the Grand Ballroom at Florida A&M University. It's open to the public, and I saw that the doors are going to open at 4 p.m. So it's not too far from you over here at Mexico Beach if you go, I guess, the back way. but there's just an opportunity, and these people, who are they? They were appointed largely by our representatives, the House of Representatives, the lead, Mr. Corcoran, and then Mr. Negron, who is our Senate. He's over the Senate. He appointed quite a few. The Florida Bar got 3 appointees. Attorney Bondi is designated as one by the Constitution. So these are people who have sworn to listen to your voice and try to do the best thing for the state of Florida. But sometimes they need to hear from the citizens. Sometimes things that they're suggesting may not be the best idea. So you kind of got to, we always think everyone's doing their best, but you kind of got to watch them. And that's what citizens are for, to listen, ask questions, and give your input. So please take one, go online. If you can't make that one, hopefully there'll be another one in Northwest Florida, but Florida's a big state. That may be the closest one to you. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce everybody else from the league. Jamie Shepard is my Voter Services Chair, and she was the most recent past president of the Bay County League of Women Voters, so I still address her and get a lot of information from Jamie because she keeps me on track if I do something wrong. So she's very knowledgeable, and she also was the president of the League of Women Voters in California, so she's quite knowledgeable. And then we have a newer member, Cara Woodson, who's going to be our timekeeper. And she has been a fabulous new member and just jumped right in and just been such a great help and guidance. So she will show the candidates how much time they have left. And Jamie's going to be our moderator, and she will give the rules and go over everything, which the candidates were given the rules, but we want you guys to know what's going on too. So Jamie will go through that a little bit, and she'll direct traffic, and I will be the questioner. And so the next thing we need to do is we need to all stand up and say the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, and the next person you hear after that will be Jamie.
Thank you, Cecile. Good evening. Yay, voters. You're here. We're very happy and proud of you. I'm Jamie Shepard, and I'm the Voter Service Chair for the Bay County League of Women Voters, and I'm your moderator this evening for the Candidates Forum. The League applauds the courage of candidates who are willing to run for public office, and we thank all of you in the audience for your interest in learning more about the issues about these candidates and their views. Here are our forum rules. You just saw the candidates draw numbers. Mr. Cathy had number 1, Mr. Bailey had number 2, and that determined their position on the stage. None of the candidates have been given any questions in advance. Questions are relevant to the issues for the particular office, and I make every effort to ensure that each candidate gets an equal number of questions by our questioner, Cecile, this evening. Each candidate will have 1 minute for an opening statement before we begin, and then when questioning starts, which is a rotating thing, the candidates get 2 minutes to answer each question. The league's timekeeper, Cara Watson, will start the clock when the candidate begins to answer. She will signal when you have 15 seconds left, and then flash the stop sign at 2 minutes. Understood? If there's any time remaining, the candidate may use the time to clarify or rebut a previous comment. No personal attacks are accepted. Audience, we're all here to hear what the candidates have to say. We will be respectful and quiet. No applause or outbursts. Please put your cell phones on silent or airplane mode. Check it if you didn't already do it. Are we ready? Ready to begin? Perfect. Our first candidate is Mr. Cathy, followed by Mr. Bailey. Mr. Cathy is candidate number 1, and you now have a minute for an introduction. Feel free for me to pull that mic closer to you.
Okay, I'm sorry. Good evening. I want to take a minute before I give my opening comments to say to the Women's League of Voters, thank you for hosting this event. I think it's wonderful that you people do that. And to those of you that have come to hear what we have to say, I think when you have a turnout like this, I want to thank all of you for being interested in what local officials have to say about their city. My purpose for running for mayor is simple. I care about this community. I have a passion for what we have here. I served as mayor for 10 years. I understand the mechanics of the city. But that's not why I'm sitting here, and that's not why my name is on the ballot. I truly believe that local government has a responsibility, and they have an obligation to protect the quaintness, the uniqueness, the charm, and the character of such an unusual place that all of us are fortunate enough to call home. So, my vote, my voice, my vision, sitting from this table, will always be to protect the quality of life that we all expect and deserve.
Thank you, Mr. Cathy. Mr. Bailey.
Thank you. I echo Mr. Cathy's remarks about this wonderful turnout, and also to the League. Thank you very much for being here. I've had a wonderful time as your mayor the last 2 years. It's been a few challenges along the way and a few opportunities to excel, but overall it's really been a good time. The citizens of this town are very supportive. I appreciate that very much. When I became mayor, I did so because I thought I had something to give to this community, something that could make an impact and help us get things done in an orderly and efficient way. And I think we were very successful this year. I haven't given all that I have to give to Mexico Beach, and I certainly look forward to another term as your mayor. I think we have a tremendous potential here in town. I too care about the small town atmosphere that we have in Mexico Beach, but at the same time, I have a good vision for what we can become in the next 5 years.
Thank you very much. We'll begin with questions now. Our first question deals with budget issues. Cecile.
City budget priorities vary widely in Bay County. Lynn Haven's biggest expense is personnel, but Panama City spends the highest percentage on water, sewage, and sanitation operations, followed by police and fire. What should Mexico Beach's city highest priorities be in terms of budget?
And Mr. Cathy, you're first.
Okay. It's my opinion that a small town like Mexico Beach, if we're going to maintain a growth pattern that we all have seen for the last few years, that infrastructure has to be the top priority. Stormwater, streets and roads, water, sewer, sanitation services. There's not a lot of needs why some of us are living here. And I say that, when I say needs, I mean we aren't looking to be larger or taller. We aren't looking to be flashier with bright lights. The simple things are what's important. And the city needs to understand that infrastructure gives us the stability to be able to grow in an orderly way. My emphasis, as it was when I was serving before, was always on keeping what we have in good shape. Planning, budgeting for those things, and you have to stay the course when you do that. You can't jump around. You can't expect, when you have a plan in a small town like we do with limited income and as much for ad valorem taxpayers to participate at the level they do, you have to have a solid plan and you have to stay with it. So if we can't, to grow our infrastructure and secure the things that make us who we are in terms of what attracts people here, then we have to be able to make our infrastructure support that. Without that, there was no growth. And without growth, we become stagnant. So I would strongly urge our city council to have good, strong infrastructure plans.
Mr. Bailey, your response.
I'm very fiscally conservative. The general fund to me is a very important thing because it funds our police, our fire, our general administration, parks and recreation, and all those kind of different things. But more importantly to the taxpayer, it's what your ad valorem taxes support. We have water, sewer, and sanitation funds that are all enterprise funds, and they kind of support themselves. While I agree that it is very important that we maintain them, it's obviously evidenced by our increasing of our sewer capacity this past year to allow room for 600 more customers, where our water account already does that. It's a little bit difficult to do that when we have such a small number of full-time members here in Mexico Beach. But the general fund is my first emphasis, and then the enterprise funds take their own emphasis separately.
Our next question is on millage and property tax rates.
Mexico Beach has the highest millage rate in Bay County. Why is that the case?
Mr. Bailey.
Millage rate is just a function of mathematics. You figure out first how much money you need, and then you divide that, and it comes up with your millage rate. Our millage rate is, by number, highest it's been, but let's take 10 years ago. Our millage rate was only like 3 mills, but the amount of money that was brought into the city was over $2 million in the general fund, when now we only collect $1.8 million in the general fund with nearly double the millage rate. The millage rate can go down only if we economize, and we are trying to do that by looking closely at what we spend, and that will bring the millage rate down. As we also grow and our property values increase, the millage rate can also come down.
Mr. Kathy.
Mexico Beach has the highest millage rate in the county because 80% of our funds in the general fund are derived from ad valorem tax. The simple fact is that Mexico Beach is a ad valorem tax revenue producing community in order to survive in the general fund. So when people talk about high taxes, if you think that our other revenues that other communities have, such as sales tax, gas tax, occupational license fees, franchise fees, we're a mom and pop business community. We cater through our taxation to many people that don't vote here, but they pay a lot of tax. So when you look at the structure of Mexico Beach, other communities have other revenues that help offset ad valorem tax. Mexico Beach doesn't have that opportunity because we're small. Gas tax and sales tax are population driven. We're small in numbers, we receive small amounts of money. Other communities receive larger amounts of money. Ad valorem tax at 5.14 this year is the highest it's been in the history of the city, or at least in 15 years. And it will most likely always be the highest in the county.
Our next question goes to Mr. Kathy first.
And the topic is enforcement or protection of ordinances.
I'm sorry, can you please speak up just a little bit?
Yeah, let's get-
Thank you.
The topic is on, can you hear me better now?
Talk loud.
Hello?
It's not loud.
Oh.
Yes, it is.
It's on now.
Hello? Ooh.
They're awake now.
Thank you very much for that. Okay. The next topic is on enforcement protection of ordinances. The City Council is currently considering repealing an ordinance that has been on the books for decades, which prevents parking or storage of boats, trailers, vehicles, golf carts, etc. on vacant lots. If repealed, the change could turn vacant lots in neighborhoods into storage lots with all the problems that go along with it, including a code enforcement burden. Do you support this ordinance change or not, and why?
Mr. Kathy.
No, I do not support making people move their trailers from vacant lots. Mexico Beach was founded by fishermen and fishermen's families. And people come here, they bring boats, they need a place to put them, they need a place to keep their trailers. And I do not agree that we need to find a reason to remove those trailers from vacant lots if they're just there for, I mean, it's been that way for years. I'm old school when it comes to what Mexico Beach is and why we are the way we are, and I don't see any reason to change or change where people put their trailers, especially the boat trailers. I've never known that to be a problem. I think government self-inflicted themselves with that ordinance, or the enforcement of that ordinance. I never saw this room fill up with people. I never heard people in this town talk about that there was a problem. And I don't see any reason to not allow people to put trailers on vacant lots.
Mr. Bailey?
Your question is a little bit out of date. The
Yeah,
city
today.
council is no longer considering repealing this ordinance. Matter of fact, we're letting this ordinance stand as is. The degree of enforceability that we've looked at over the last year has varied somewhat. We've actually put a moratorium on it for some time. That moratorium is now off. The issue that came up was property owners that did not like their neighbor having a bunch of stuff stored on their lots, or in this particular case, a previous council member that didn't like the way the city looked. And the other councils have always looked at when it becomes a nuisance. And that's really what we're looking at more than anything. Is it a nuisance? Folks, four boat trailers parked in your neighborhood on a vacant lot is a nuisance. You don't want to look at it because it degrades your property value. That's something that we're going to have to continue to look at, how we're going to address it. It's been on the books a long time, hadn't been enforced in a long time, or it has only been enforced from time to time. We're just going to have to look at that as time goes.
Okay. The next question is on water sewage rates. And
Mr. Bailey goes first.
Mr. Bailey is first, yes. A Northwest rural water study of water sewer rates indicated that Mexico Beach rates were too low to maintain a healthy reserve. To correct this, options were offered were an incremental rate increase or a service availability fee, which meant that owners could no longer turn service off for months at a time without paying a base fee to support the cost. Which of these options do you support and why?
I support a service availability fee because, well, actually for several reasons. First, let me use an analogy. If you have a cell phone tonight, you may not make a call on it this month, you may not answer it this month, but you still got to pay for it. That's an availability fee. And that also equates to us. We have debt service that we have to accomplish on water and sewer. These are federal loans. The loans require that every person attached to the system be a member of that system and pay an availability fee, which consists of the debt service for the water and sewer, as well as the overhead of the system. Because whether you're turned on or turned off, it's still available to you, and there has to be a base charge. This is the only way that your city can have everyone participate in it and pay off our debt services and maintain healthy infrastructure in all three funds.
Mr. Catton?
And I agree that debt service is part of the requirement for the city to be able to, to be able to keep those functions of the enterprise funds, the water, sewer, and sanitation funds at a healthy level. How we have done that in the past, this latest ordinance that was passed, where that if you have a water meter, you are assessed a fee for what this council is calling a user fee or a debt reduction fee. That's something new, and the reason that I question that is that all of those services, that the enterprise funds, the water, sewer, and sanitation services, have seen extremely escalating expenses in all of those funds. Well, obviously, if you're going to raise the expenses, you're going to have to generate some revenue to offset that. We saw that in the sanitation service, where the rate went up 18%, we cut our service. We saw that in the sewer, where there was additional expenses added for personnel cost. I don't have the answers to why that happened that way, but I do know that if you're going to raise the expenses in the enterprise funds and they're self-supporting, then the rates are going to have to go up, or you're going to have to find alternative ways to raise money. I'm not sure that I would support the level of expense that we did, or the level of service fee that we added to those that chose to just have a water meter, and then if they're not using it, they would pay something like $40 a month as a user fee to support the debt service.
Okay. The next question has to do with sanitation, and it'll go to you, Mr. Cathy, first. The practice of backdoor sanitation service and twice-a-week collection is not adequately supported with current trash collection rates. Many contend that backdoor service primarily benefits the out-of-town owners or vacation rental owners. Are permanent residents paying more to support benefits that most permanent residents don't need?
Mr. Cathy.
That's for
Okay.
you.
You're through?
Yes.
Yeah, sanitation. For 20 years plus, we've had a gold star service in sanitation. I don't know of a soul in this city that didn't appreciate what we had in sanitation service. From the people that worked in the department to the service they received, which was backdoor service. I'm unsure as to why we would take a service like we did, or like we had, and reduce it, because we are a multifaceted community. We have taxpayers, we have citizens, we have second homeowners, we have visitors, we have beachgoers, we have fishermen, we have mom and pop business owners. All of those have to be considered when you make decisions about services that we offer our community. Not just one group of people. We aren't a community of where we all live, we all talk to each other, we all go to work, we come home. We are multifaceted, and the city must, in order to give the best service for the best price, consider everyone that uses that service. The sanitation service, when it was changed, I think it would be a safe thing to say that this room filled up like it is right now. There was concerns, there were issues. Why would we do that to ourselves? So I think we should continue, and I will strongly support 2 pickups a week, year-round, and service. I mean, the people here want a clean community, and I think government has an obligation to provide that.
Mr. Bailey.
A year ago, we tried to modify the sanitation pickup to curbside. You would have thought we turned off the water. It lasted 3 weeks. We did an emergency meeting and we reversed that. This past winter, we only went to 1 pickup a week on residential properties, but we picked up 100% of the trash. Service was not reduced. We picked up 100% of the trash. We just didn't have to do it twice. We even proved that you could pick up the entire residential community in 2 days instead of 5. We did not save the amount of money we were looking for, and now we've already gone back to 2 days a week. And I can promise you, as long as I'm mayor, we'll never go back to less than 2 days a week again. It's just not worth the effort. One day, the city will have to change, and it'll have to change to what all the other cities in Bay County have done, and that's going to a commercial pickup, because you will no longer want to pay what it will cost.
Okay.
I hope we never go to a commercial pickup. I thought you said it. I'm sorry. You.
Oh, no, no. You already answered that.
Yeah, you answered that question. It's a little confusing because what we're doing is switching who goes first. So you actually had answered that one, and then he answered it last, and now the next question is for Mr. Bailey. You're going to be first. Okay. And it's on sanitation. Okay. Trash collection and disposal is currently a city-funded service. Should this be contracted out to private providers or remain a city service? Please explain your position.
Mr. Bailey.
Sanitation needs to remain a Mexico Beach service. We are a very unique community. We have 2,600 homes. Our census is 1,100, more accurately, probably 1,600. That leaves 1,000 homes that nobody's here to carry the garbage to the curb. There's nobody here to take care of the garbage cans after they leave, etc. I don't see any other workable solution for sanitation now or in the near future. It works the way it is. We were trying to save money, is why we mess with it at all. You got to either save money or charge more when the expenses go up.
Now, Mr. Kathy.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
Sanitation is one of the pride of our city. I hear it's the most talked about service that this city has ever offered. And it's a city service, and it should remain a city service. There's no place here for big green cans and commercial service that you see down, east of us. That's not what the citizens want. I can remember vividly when we tried that several years back. I think it lasted less than a month. People here want a clean town. They pay. They're okay with paying to have the things that affect their quality of life. And sanitation is one of those things that affect all of our quality of life. And I think it's important to recognize that if who we are and what we want, then that's the way we should live. That's the way we should put our money where our mouth is. If we want to have that type of service, and we want it when people ride through our town and they don't see trash cans, they don't see trash bins, they see a clean looking town. And that's what the people here have said that they want. And I would support, never would I support going to a commercial service for sanitation.
Thank you. And this next question pertains to priorities of the use of your half-cent sales tax. And it's going to go back to you, Mr. Cathy, to go first. The revenues for the half-cent sales tax passed last year can only be used for road or bridge improvements. Which projects should be funded or fast-tracked for funding, and why?
I didn't hear the first part of that. I'm sorry.
The revenues for the half-cent sales tax can only be used for road and bridge improvements. Which specific projects should be funded or fast-tracked for funding, and why?
Well, I stated earlier that infrastructure is important. It's the number one priority. Roads, in 1984, we were driving on dirt roads. The city passed a utility tax to help fund. The city then, or the citizens paid $5 a front foot property to have the roads paved in this city. Nothing has been done. We do have a fund that supports road maintenance, but the utility tax money needs to be put back into that, and I would say that our roads I would think that would be the best use and proper use for the sales tax money that we will be receiving from the county. I see many places now that need some attention. The last number I remember was around $400,000 was in that account, and for road paving and road maintenance, that won't go very far. So I think that the city should commit to a higher reserve for road maintenance, and that would be a great place to start.
Mr. Bailey.
The half-cent sales tax was passed for infrastructure. Unfortunately, being a small town, a lot of us did not realize or do the math before we voted for that. We're only going to receive about $100,000 a year out of the $21 million the county's going to take in, because it goes by population, and that's a real pittance for even a town our size and the amount of tax that we pay in. It is dedicated to infrastructure projects, and any infrastructure project would qualify, such as a new fire station or improvements to the fire station, or put it in the road account. But any utility fund that needs it, I don't think we're going to have a good opportunity at only $100,000 a year to do what you call a fast pace or a jump in on something. That's just not very much money. A half-cent sales tax equates to 5 meals on your property taxes. Figure it out yourself.
Okay. Mr. Bailey, you'll answer this question first, and it's on water infrastructure. There was a water break in February of this year which required that the water be boiled. What improvements do you think are necessary to prevent water breaks or leaks?
The water break that we recently experienced, actually in March, we got 2 in the same day. It was most extraordinary. We drilled a hole in a 30-inch pipe and it split. We turned the water back on. 8 hours later, another pipe on the same line split. It caused me and all my neighbors on the east side of town to be without water. We had a wonderful pipe replacement project that was just completed in 2015. It was very much needed, very much contributed to the quality of our water. Without going in now and locating every pipe that did not get replaced then, which is not that much of a paramount problem, it would be impossible to prevent that from happening again.
Mr. Cathy.
Yeah, I think, as Mr. Bailey said, we had a massive water line redo in 2015 when we built the new water plant. All of the distribution lines, including the main line to and from the tank, were replaced. I think it's just one of those unfortunate things that happened. I don't know what caused it. I doubt anyone knows what caused it. But we are in excellent condition in our water distribution lines. There still are some old lines, but the whole city was looped, which took away those dead end lines, that smelly water, stagnant water. But as far as where the line just split or broke, I think that's just, as they say, part of doing business.
The next question is on BP oil spill money, and that'll go back to you, Mr. Cathy. Mexico Beach is due to receive a significant amount of money from the BP Deepwater Horizon settlement over the next few years. How would you like to see this money spent?
That's been on my radar for some time. BP oil spill money's been talked about in Bay County for a number of years. And they say it's coming. I was part of many meetings about how much money was going to come to Bay County. But the Mexico Beach should be in line for some funds. And one of the things in a project that I would like to see us pursue would be a new fishing pier, a concrete pier. When you think about our little town and you have a fishing pier, the only fishing pier, open Gulf fishing pier between Port St. Joe and Panama City Beach, it's a unique thing for our little town to have that. I don't know how many of you use it, but it's a draw. And I think that right now we have a wooden pier, and you can't go but so far out with a wooden structure because the depth of the water is not conducive for wooden pilings at a certain depth. So my priority would be to pursue BP funds and use that for a nice concrete fishing pier for Mexico Beach.
Mr. Bailey.
Very difficult to spend money that you really don't know if you're going to get. It sounded like we were going to have a panacea in this thing. I agree with Mr. Cathy. It's very difficult because I picked up the meetings where he left off, and when there are layers above you, I would be very cautious about getting too ready to spend too much money. We have put in for a project for some of that money. It's actually take the water out of the 8th Street Canal that comes out that stains much of our beach and actually take some of that discharge further offshore. It's a very expensive project. Just the engineering alone is some $600,000. But what it would do is put like a little artificial reef out there where that dumps out, and it would actually take that water from that canal, get it further away from the beach. We wouldn't get that stain that runs along the edge. That's just a good example how to use these funds, because they'll certainly be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
The next topic is the Farmdale development, and you'll answer first, Mr. Bailey. Without annexation, the council voted to provide city, water, sewer, sanitation, police, and fire protection service to the Farmdale development in an unincorporated Bay County just outside Mexico Beach city limits. What is the benefit to the city for doing this, and how do you ensure that property owners within the city aren't subsidizing services for out-of-city owners?
Hey, the Farmdale subdivision is indeed outside of Mexico Beach, and they're not currently applying for annexation. They hadn't got it off the ground, but it's going. We've only agreed to provide water and sewer services to this subdivision and no other service at this time. They are in our water sewer service area. They have to pay a 25% premium for using our water and sewer, both at installation time and at monthly usage. They've even agreed to pay impact fees for water and sewer in advance of even houses being built, something that we do not require. But those fees will go into our impact funds on a prepayment basis. So all that works fine. Details of whether we provide through cooperative agreements, fire, police, EMS, anything like that, those are the negotiations that we'll have to do in the future. For example, Farmdale residents will have to pay the county 2 meals, and that we're going to ask the county for those 2 meals for fire protection.
Mr. Kathy?
I have limited knowledge of the negotiations with Farmdale. I tried to watch the meetings. I never saw that those people came to a public meeting and addressed the city council about their needs or their wishes. I was disappointed in that. I did read the agreement where the city will collect impact fee money. Those are restricted funds. And when I use the word restricted, they aren't general fund dollars. They don't support the general fund. And if you just look at the volume of dollars that were collected, you would have to think, well, we did okay. But to grow the city, you need tax-based dollars. And I think that it would have been a much, much better fit for the city to not give up the water and sewer without strongly questioning their need to annex into this city. Tax-based dollars is how we grow. I don't know, I know they are in our service area, but again, I never heard from any of the people in this room in front of the city council about any negotiations. So I have limited knowledge of actually what they wanted or what we asked them to do. But I think it would be wise to always pursue tax-based dollars over other types of funds that are restricted. So they have our water, they have our sewer. I don't know why they would want to come into our city.
Okay. The next question relates to golf carts. And that'll go to you, Mr. Cathy. What policies do you support to allow golf carts on local roads? Should they be required to have a local license to operate on city streets?
A few years back, golf carts it was a popular thing in a lot of communities to move around. In the small town of Mexico Beach, I think golf carts are great. Unfortunately, there's areas of town that are not accessible because of DOT and Highway 98. Do I think it's important for the city to regulate them to the degree that we do? No, I don't. I noticed not long ago where if you went to City Hall, you could have your golf cart inspected. And in the budget, I saw we were expecting $2,500 in golf cart fees. Well, I'm not sure what we spent to collect $2,500. But I think that just some common sense. We know where we can't ride. As far as what type of inspecting the golf cart, I don't see that it's a necessity for government to be involved in. I think it's fine to not have a sticker and not have it inspected. I don't see the benefit versus what we have to spend to enforce that.
Mr. Bailey?
I think golf carts in Mexico Beach are a great thing. It keeps the traffic congestion down. Truthfully, I wish we could drive them across 98 and drive them to the beach. That's my personal opinion. That's not the way the state looks at it. The state has first of all, I think we should have golf carts in Mexico Beach. Secondly, I think we should just simply follow the state regulations. I also believe we should can the requirement to put a sticker on them and collect $15. It's just not worth the effort or the time to do that. And it's not worth the aggravation for those of us who can't get to City Hall to have your golf cart inspected because it's on a road that's inaccessible to golf carts. It just doesn't make any sense. Or anywhere else, as far as that matter. You can't carry them to the police department because you can't get there in a golf cart. You understand what I'm saying? So I agree with Mr. Cathy. I don't think we should inspect them at all. The state has a regulation that said you can't drive ATVs on the road. That's good enough for me.
Thank you. The next question has to do with new business growth, and Mr. Bailey, I'll ask you to answer first. What kind of business would you like to attract to Mexico Beach? What kind of incentive, if any, should the city offer to new businesses to come to Mexico Beach? And how would this be paid for?
Mexico Beach is very much a landlocked city, and it's very difficult to attract businesses if you don't have ground for them to operate on. The opportunity that we see to our west is certainly one of the only opportunities I see for any business of any size. For example, there's 50,000 square feet of retail space, and I think retail is something we could use more of in Mexico Beach. It's one of the only things I think we are going to do. I don't think we'll ever have industry here. There's just no room for that. As far as incentives from the city, I think we should indeed court businesses such as nice supermarkets or that kind of thing, retail stores, after development in the future on the west side of the city. But it would be up to the council at that time to look more closely at that.
Mr. Cathy?
Yeah, I agree that to grow business in Mexico Beach is very difficult. If you look at the LDR, you'll find that the size of the lots, the requirements for commercial development, when you look at stormwater, you look at parking, you look at the things that are required for commercial development, whether it's just a real estate office or an insurance office, something small. It's very difficult on a 100 by 100 or 100 by 75 lot to find a way to have anything that would merit, one, the cost of the lot, the building, and the development of that property. The return on investment would be very difficult to make that work. So until Bonfire Beach has some movement, which Lord knows we have no idea when that would be, but there is really no commercial development unless the city saw a need to start looking at doing something along the 98 corridor to give relief for businesses as an incentive in terms of what the LDR says. And that has its own drawbacks. You have people a lot of folks have lived on Highway 98 for years, and they don't want to think of a donut shop or a hardware store or a grocery store or a gas station. So it's hard, once you make it general commercial, you sort of have to be very careful with that. You can't just say you can have this business in this location. So the thing that I think this city should do is be grateful to those businesses that are here. Thank them. Be warm and friendly to them. Encourage them. They're the frontline soldier of this town. I don't think some of you understand what it's like to talk to the number of people that our mom and pop business owners talk to about our special little place. Government needs to be business friendly to those that are here and those that may seek to want to come here.
Thank you. The next question has to do with medical marijuana dispensaries, and I'll ask you to answer it first, Mr. Kathy. This week, the county passed a highly restrictive ordinance on medical marijuana dispensaries in 5 commercially zoned areas in unincorporated Bay County. What is your opinion on allowing medical marijuana dispensaries to open in Mexico Beach?
Well, it was passed by the voters from the state of Florida. It's difficult for me as a public servant to simply say, well, that's what they said they wanted, and then find nothing or just ignore that happened. I don't know enough about what the drawbacks are to stopping it. It seems to me that once it's passed, I think our government needs to be smart and use some common sense about what it is that we would allow here. But I'm unsure that we would have just the right. I know there's a moratorium on it. I believe it was for 6 months, if my memory serves me right. And maybe during that time, I think we'll have to discuss that at this table and decide how would our local government want to approach dispensary marijuana. I'm not sure how the people of this town feel about it. I've never heard that. It may have been discussed. I won't say it hasn't, but I don't recall it being discussed about how people feel about that. So I would sort of defer to the community and the citizens about what it is that they would want to see government do for them.
Mr. Bailey?
That's kind of exactly where we're at. I agree with everything Mr. Cathy's just said. It was interesting, though, right after it passed the state, we had 3 or 4 folks come to City Hall wanting to know where they could buy their dope. And I thought that was pretty cute at the moment until it got down to the serious. We did put a 6-month moratorium because we needed some time. The planning and zoning has it right now. They're fixing to hold hearings on it. I invite you to provide all the input. I don't know how we can prevent it. We've had legal discussions with our council, and it's just a matter of time. When our 6 months runs out, we have to have come to a decision what we're going to do. And of course, we're looking to the state on all the restrictions they might put on this.
Thank you. Mr. Bailey, I'll ask you a next question on contract procurement processes. Please describe the procurement process for work done by the private sector on behalf of the city. Does the city have a local procurement preference policy like Bay County does in awarding contracts to locals, even if their bid is not the lowest? Is this a good idea in your opinion? Why or why not?
Our procurement policies are pretty straightforward. Our city administrator can make purchases up to $8,000. Anything past that requires council approval and budgetary considerations. We do not currently have a local vendor preference as such. We certainly are aware that we have local vendors, and we use them whenever we can. A good example is the new City Hall that was just finishing up this month. All local vendors were used in that project. We were approached about local vendor option about a year ago, 2 years ago really, but at that time I didn't see a need to enact it, and we never considered it.
Mr. Kathy?
Yes, ma'am. Local vendor preference is something I don't really see as a high priority in Mexico Beach. I don't think that what the city does in terms of bidding or contracting, the things that we have in place now are just simply, like most governments, low bid. If you're getting a quality work by a quality company that has good background, then I don't think there's a need for local vendor construction preference. What I do think is important is that government uses local businesses when it's appropriate. I think it's important that government give back to the community when they can for the local business people, whatever that may be. Price is always important. Quality is important. Availability is important. I think you have to weigh those things in a small town like Mexico Beach, and you use your local businesses and show them the appreciation for what they give to government. When somebody needs If the fire department's having a raffle, you don't generally see businesses in Panama City give to the local community. When there's a need in the community, you'll normally see all of the local businesses line up to support government. And I think it's important that you establish a good relationship, especially with mom and pop businesses. It's different. We're not corporate USA. So from the procurement standpoint, I think the way it's set up now with the city administrator, I don't see any need for local vendor preference or contracts.
The next topic, Mr. Cathy, you'll be answering first, is the balance between tourism and concerns of residents. Tourism is the lifeblood of many beach communities. How do you balance the concerns of residents with the impact of growing tourism?
Well, for Mexico Beach, that seems to be, unfortunately, at least in my view, a more growing concern than what I thought I would ever see here. If you look back at the history of this little town, when those first fishermen and their families came here, we were all so very glad to see them. We got to know them. We got to know their children. We knew their aunts. We knew their uncles. We knew everything about them. It was truly a family environment. Tourism, there's always, I guess you could say, there's a bad apple. There always will be, unfortunately. And sometimes we seem to want to overreact to that, but without tourism, we have no lifeblood to this city. It's the economic, it drives everything that happens here. It affects, while you may not, you as a citizen and a local, it affects your taxable value on your home, it affects your insurance, it affects things that you enjoy about our city, and I think sometimes we're just going to have to learn how to take a deep breath and know that the July 4th only comes once a year. You know, it's just going to come once a year. So tourism and local flavor is something that we all have to balance out because it's a facet of this community. And it can't be ignored, and it can't become us and them. It's all us. It's all us that thrive because of tourism. And I think government needs to help create a climate, a good, healthy climate, and understand what we have here is special, but we got to share it times of the year with other people.
Mr. Bailey.
We have three businesses in Mexico Beach: tourism, tourism, and tourism. We do enjoy the economic climate that tourism brings. The tourists are the ones who goes out on Captain Chuck's boat, and they're the ones who rent Kathy's Rentals and everywhere else in town. The 4th of July, that's a real good point. The Leave No Trace ordinance that came up recently. I don't think Al or I either one voted for it. I'm telling you right now I didn't, because I thought that it introduced something that wasn't necessary, because we had a policy of keep it neat. And I thought that worked just fine, to be honest with you. And now we're imposing upon ourselves and imposing upon those who come to visit us a more harsh reality. But now that it's passed, it's passed. It's the law. The citizens wanted it. We've got it. We're going to enforce it. But tourism must coexist in Mexico Beach. That's why I came here. I was a tourist as a child, and here I am back in the city, and it's my city. And I want all my children. My daughter already built a place here too. Now she and her children are going to be here behind me. Tourism is the lifeblood of Mexico Beach.
Our next set of questions is going to be on the bed tax. According to your Community Development Council, or CDC, website, the Tourist Development Tax, commonly known as the bed tax, funds the marketing and promotional activities performed by the Mexico Beach Community Development Council. This tax is also used for beach cleanup and grooming, product improvement, and beach renourishment.
Okay. And so, as stated, this question pertains to the bed tax. and it'll go to you, Mr. Cathy first. What tops your list of priorities for using bed tax money?
Well, the CDC, the structure of the CDC, when the referendum was put before the voters back in 1996, I believe, 97, was that they would contribute a certain percent of their income to the city. That was a big selling point for establishing the CDC. They currently give $30,000 for the dredging of the canal, and they give $17,000 for beach cleaning, and they recently approved $11,800 just a couple weeks ago for Leave No Trace, as far as marketing and helping promote what the voters said they wanted. Because of the structure of the CDC, they're non-political. And what they give to the city, while they do promote the area, there's no obligation on their part to fund city activities or city political needs, even though they do collect money from the bed tax, which is brought in by tourists. They have a very strict, regimented policy, by state statute, on what monies can be spent for, percentages of funds. So while it would be nice to get more CDC dollars, when you look at Leave No Trace as an example, that was an unfunded ordinance that got passed, and the CDC, I'm grateful that they gave the city some extra money that they found. But I think they pay rent for the building. They give us $47,000 a year, and as they grow, I'm sure they will increase that. So, does that stop or 15? Okay. Just trying to, don't want to get in trouble. The CDC is an asset to this community, but it's not a funding resource.
Mr. Bailey.
I'm going to carry on that conversation. The CDC has collected over $680,000, or will collect over $680,000 this year, which is more than a third of all the ad valorem tax we collect in town. So many politicians, past and present, look at that and say, my goodness, they have all that money and they're just doing with it whatever they want to. And we're already saturated with tourists. Don't invite no more of them during the summer. We got enough. Y'all, I'm sure that some of you have at least thought that. To the operational guy like I am, that doesn't necessarily sit well with me, but the truth is they're not a funding agency for the city. They are responsible for tourism development and development of the city, but not the infrastructure of the city. So unfortunately, whether I like the bed tax or not, and I don't particularly like the bed tax, to be honest with you, but it serves its own purpose, and city government has to be separate and distinct from the CDC.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bailey, and I'll give you the next question first. It's on beach cleanup. We understand that beach cleanup expenses during the summer far exceed the funds taken from the bed tax revenues allocated for this task. Some local residents feel this unfairly shifts the burden to them. Should more funds be allocated to pay for this?
From bed tax?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Currently, let's talk about last year. We raked the beach 41 times. We picked up the trash 179 times. Whether tourists were here or not, we do the same thing. That's funded out of the general fund. Is it augmented by money from the bed tax? Yes, it is, and we really appreciate that. The $18,000 now, $30,000 that the CDC is putting into our budget for beach cleaning and raking and all that, that really helps out. And of course, we have a little extra burden, but the burden is not as big as people think it is to get extra stuff off the beach with Leave No Trace. It's not that big a deal. We can get it done with the assets we have. A little bit extra financial help certainly takes, we certainly appreciate that. Would I like a little bit more? Yes, I would. It would certainly ease the burden We don't have a single employee in town that costs less than $40,000 a year.
Mr. Cathy?
Well, as I said earlier, the participation by the CDC to keep our beaches clean, they have been doing that for years. Does government think that it's enough? Do some of the people that have shared this table and been city council members think that's enough? No, they don't. But it's the service they provide to the city, and keeping the beach clean and neat and pristine is a priority most likely for everyone in this room. The level that the CDC participates, as I said earlier, it was part of the referendum vote, the percentages. If you look at their charter and the way they're structured, they have a commitment for a percentage of their funds to support specifically beach cleaning and canal dredging. So, you know, I've always thought that we appreciated what they gave us. Could we use more? Of course. But I think at their level of participation that they feel like, remember, they're business people, they're tax collectors, they're part of this community. They have the same general feeling, and when I say they, I'm talking about the CDC board, the people that sit there and make those decisions. They have the same feelings that all of us do about this town. So they're part of this community. And their participation level, I think you will see as it grows, that they will increase those funds appropriately.
Okay. The next question is a little bit more of a detail on the leave no trace, and Mr. Cathy will ask you
I
first.
thought you could avoid that question.
We got close, and now we're going to get right on it. How do you feel about the leave no trace behind ordinance? Does it help preserve the beaches, or is it a burdensome local regulation? Please explain your response.
I came to the city council meeting several months back, and I stood at that podium and I told council that I thought that leave no trace, as it was written, was unnecessary. I thought it was too cumbersome, too burdensome for the city to enforce, and I was an advocate for putting it on a referendum ballot, because I thought the people needed to know what they were passing or what they wanted. I did not vote for leave no trace. Mexico Beach, when you have a family-oriented community, and that's what we sell here. We don't sell bright lights. We don't sell 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning establishments for young people. We sell ourselves as a family beach and have for years. Yes, there are times that our beach doesn't look like we want it to. But I thought the reaction to leave no trace when you use the barometer of 4th of July or Labor Day as what you see, that's not, I think that's a snapshot in time, and it's not reality. There are many days. You go down on June 20th, there's no problem. You go down on August 3rd, there's no problem. Many of us here that have been here a long time used to say you could shoot a cannon down the road. You wouldn't hit anybody. Yes, there's more of us here, but there should be a way, in my opinion, to share what we have without leave no trace.
Mr. Bailey?
I'm very glad this question came up. Many, many people don't know what they voted for. I reread the ordinance just a few minutes before I came here. It's not about garbage on the beach. It's not about trash on the beach. It's not about Coke cans, and it's not about beer cans. It's about tents, chairs, loungers, and beach toys that folks bring to the beach. Doesn't say anything about garbage. Did you know that? It does talk about taking care of the turtles and things like that, but doesn't say a word about garbage. We already take care of garbage. It's in sanitation regulations. It's in the littering regulations. It's already there. As I said, and my cards are on the table here, I didn't vote for it because I agree with Al. We didn't have to have this. What we needed to do was a better job of what we were doing before. It's always been against state law for people to leave the stuff unattended on a beach. It's a state law. And now it's a local law. So leave no trace. We've passed it now. We've got it. We're going to do the best we can to enforce it because the citizens of Mexico Beach voted 59%. That's what they wanted. But I agree that we need to be a little bit more family friendly from time to time, and we got some old folks that can't carry a 65-pound tent to the beach every day.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. Bailey, this will be to you first, and this is about large development. There were plans to have a large developer build a hotel and condominium complex in Mexico Beach that can have up to 76 hotel rooms. Is this a good or bad fit for Mexico Beach? Please state the reasons for your answer.
The hotel that was presented my first year in office was a really major deal. I didn't think that was a good fit for Mexico Beach. Primarily, because they were trying to stuff 133 density units into a lot only designed for 33. Trying to put a hotel right in the middle of a residential, even though it was a tourist residential area, I didn't feel that was a good fit. I think the hotel would have been a fine fit for Mexico Beach, but it needed to be on the other side of the canal where there's plenty of room and proper zoning for that type of unit to be built.
Mr. Cathy?
Yeah, the hotel that was proposed didn't sit well with many people in town. It did seem that it was oversized, but again, I want to go back to what I said about commercial development. When you have very little land and the value that is placed on that land, it becomes necessary to try to put on there enough to make it so that you can justify what you pay for. Commercial development in that particular location at that number of units and that size would have been difficult for this town, the people of this town to accept. We don't change easily, never have. We like what we have. We like the way we have it. And if you go around town and ask people, they'll let you know that. So in concept, additional commercial activity in Mexico Beach, I think we need fresh blood. I think that was just over the top in a location that was surrounded totally by some of the oldest homes in this city. Whether or not they were still owned by those families, I can't speak to that, but it was just a difficult fit for our town when you looked at what they wanted to do. However, I would have given anything had they been able to scale that back and put some type of more acceptable commercial activity. That one parcel of property, beachfront, beachside, there are no more spots like that. So, you know, that's what happened back when we went through the 04, 05 build it, they'll come. We used a lot of commercial property up for those residential condo units.
Our last question.
And it will go to you first, Mr. Cathy. It's about citizen input. What efforts will you make if you are elected to allow the citizens to have a stronger voice in city decisions?
You don't need to do anything in Mexico Beach for them to tell you what they want. There's always a voice out there, and there should be, and there should be. When you deal with, and I can't go away from that, we are multifaceted. Many people that pay taxes don't vote. Many fishermen, many beachgoers, many tourists, many people that come here and use our town don't have a voice. And I think government needs to be able to combine what it takes for all of us to survive and enjoy what we have. And sometimes, and I can speak firsthand, when I saw all these people here, I thought we were voting on the sidewalks. It takes a commitment from the people sitting at this table to make this community function properly. And when I use the word properly, that's defined by some of you in different forms and in different, you think of what we have here differently. But government needs to wrap its arms around all of those facets of people and come together and so that we can enjoy what we have here. You can't do it singularly. So I don't know if that answered your question, but people here will let you know how they feel. They're proud citizens. They're proud taxpayers. They're proud to be part of this unique little place that we call home. So when you do what I've done for 40 or 50 years and you're on the, when you talk to as many people as I do, citizens, taxpayers, fishermen, second homeowners, you get a feel for the need. And I think government needs to recognize that.
Mr. Bailey.
Once someone approached me and said, it doesn't matter that they don't get to vote here. I'm talking about those who are not registered voters here because they're registered somewhere else. They get to vote in their hometown and we get to vote in ours. And they have to do what we say. That struck me as wrong. And through these last 2 years, I can't tell you how many people who pay taxes here, own property here, have called me and talked to me and expressed very much a frustration that they're not part of the process. But what I tell them, they have 5 council members, and you have our ear to let your input be known as well. We certainly do that. I agree with Al. Normally people tell us when they don't like something in the council right after we pass something. Not before. You know, it's only 8 people that normally show up, but everybody shows up if they don't like it. We don't have a communication problem here in town. I think it runs very well. We have tried very hard over the last couple of years to get more community input. We keep inviting folks to come. We want you to come. We appreciate your input. May not necessarily like what you have to say, but I vote with my constituency, not my belief.
That concludes our questions, and now we'll have a closing statement from Mr. Bailey. You go first this time, and you have a minute.
Just 1 minute.
1 minute. Sell it in a minute.
Minute and 10 seconds. I just wasted 10.
No.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm overwhelmed that all of you care enough about city government to come out tonight. I really am. It really means a lot that you care enough about the city to look at its leadership and let us know what you think. And you wouldn't be here if you didn't care about what happens to the city. Al and I wouldn't be up here if we didn't both have the same thing at heart, to do what's best for the city and be fair to everybody. Like I said, I've enjoyed this 2 years. I very much look forward to another 2 years, and I promise you I'll do the absolute best I can to make each and every one of you happy, which will never happen, but I'll try anyway.
Mr. Cathy, you're a minute.
Minute and 10, that's not much. I was raised a beach kid. I'm proud of that. And I look out at this crowd and I wonder, why did you move here? Why are you here today? Why did you unhitch your wagon in a place like Mexico Beach? We all probably have different reasons we did that. But Mexico Beach has charm and character. And it started 60 years ago. We're just the recipients of it. We didn't make it. We just got past that feeling. And if you don't think it's real, walk the streets, talk to the people, and you'll hear what they say, because they'll let you know, man, you live here? This is your home? God, I'm envious of you. And government needs to understand that. They need, government can't be hard, they can't be crusty, they have to buy into that. I'm going to leave with a quick story. In 1967, the voters showed up here to vote on the referendum to incorporate this city. The vote was 63 to 61. Vote on Tuesday.
We want to thank their candidates, your candidates here, for their willingness to run and their willingness to participate tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we especially want to thank you, the concerned citizens, for your interest, and we remind you to share your insights with those who didn't get to pack the room this evening along with you. Share what you learned with your family and friends and coworkers, and spread the word on social media if you're so inclined. Even better, join the League of Women Voters and take up this banner with us as well. And then go vote. Thank you so much. Well done.